We are live for another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 106. We're going to do a quick recap of last week because last week was really, really dope. And then we'll get into this week's and we'll talk about it. Probably not going to go on super long tonight, but I say that all the time and then I end up going too long. A friend of the show, Lou Betcha over here, did want to hop on, but I don't really like. I need to kind of try to rush this. So not the best day for a co-host, but I do want to have Lou on ASAP. That would be great. It's been a while since he's been on the show, and he was one of my OG guests. So that's my guy. And then Glenn Bot, good to see you in here. I agree with you for sure. All right, so I'm a mess. I just got home. Usually I get to get home a little bit earlier, and that's why we do the show at 8. But today was, I got stuck at work. Then I had to drive back. But now I'm here. So we'll get everything together. Let's open up last week. Let's talk about last week, and then let's get into tonight. So in terms of tracked bets, we did pretty nicely. We profited 7.48 units off an 11 unit stake, so 68% ROI. We cashed on JDM money line plus 205 for a unit. Awesome fight, awesome performance. We got the Zahabi money line plus 182 for a unit. Felt a little lucky there. Natalia Silva showed she's the truth. Got her at minus 190 to win 1 unit. And then we lost on Radke, bad bet there. And Jung Young Lee plus 105, lost that as well. Bad bet, but I'm glad at least I didn't lay the chalk. Then we had the parlay with Jazdavicius and Sterling. That cashed to win 2 units at minus 130. We lost the Jazdavicius round 2 and 3 props because that is when she ran through Andrade on the first. That was pretty dominant. And then we cashed Shevchenko decision plus 215. I had a lot of money running on that fight, because the lotto parlay, one of them ended with her, and I was stressed. I was stressed out, and in the first round, it looked like she was super dominant, and my stress after the first was, oh, I hope she doesn't finish Manon. Then Manon comes back and starts cooking, and I'm like, oh, my God, now I'm going to lose this in a different way. And then Shevchenko pulls through. Really close fight, though. Glad to cash that. And then talk about feeling lucky. Benoit Saint-Denis, Kyle Prepelic. I had fight starts round 2 for to win. No, I only staked a unit at minus 105, so won a little bit less than a unit. But man, was that that was stressful. And then people who took the over 1.5, that was even more stressful because I think you cashed by like 1 or 2 seconds, which was nuts. But ultimately, great night. 7.48 units tracked, and then we did hit the 2 lotto parlays. Finally, I've cashed the lotto parlay. One of them was Valentina decision, Navajo Sterling decision, and Zahabi decision. That was like $25 to win like 1,300. And then I had another one with Valentina decision, Sterling decision, Jack money line, Jasmine ITD, and then there was one more. It's on my Twitter. You can see it. I don't remember it off the top of my head. And that one cashed. It was like $10 to win like 12 or something around that, around those lines. So that felt really good. Glad to finally get back on track. We were on a losing streak and had a really good night, but not going to, got to move on, look at the next week and try to keep it going. If you want my bets, my notes, my breakdowns, that is going to be through my Dub Club. Link in the description of this video. It's going to be $10 a month, but use Couch Warrior Pod. The promo code should still get you 20% off on your first month. And if it doesn't for some reason, hit me up and we'll fix that and we'll get you all set. And yeah, we can move on. We can jump into this card. Let me just pull it up. Thank you, Glenbot. Daz saying Radke 2. Thought Manon won. I think it's fine to think either person won. I thought it was a really close fight. And I know some people weren't fans of it, but I thought it was really fun, honestly. I was like, I like this fight because it was just really high level. And it's a shame because now Manon's going to have to probably sit on the sidelines while Valentina fights Weili and Silva. And I love Silva, and I'm hyped for her to get her shot. But Manon is clearly like a really, really good fighter at the weight class, and now she's kind of just sidelined. And my guy Dravi, I know he did super well last week too, and he was there live. You know, he was freaking out when Zahabi won, our guy. But all right, let's jump into this card. So first fight of the night, and this card, honestly, from a betting perspective, it stinks. I don't like it. So far, I only have one bet. I know one other bet that I'm going to make for sure, and that's really it for now. Maybe something will come along as the lines change throughout the week, but I really don't like these lines. Dravi saying he was screaming in round 3. He's talking about the Zahabi. I can imagine. I was screaming, so I can imagine. All right. So first fight of the night, we've got Luana Pinheiro versus Tecia Pennington. Pinheiro, she's going to be 11-4-0. She's 31 years old, 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. Pennington on the other side, 14-7-0. She's 35 now, so she's going to be 4 years older. She's going to be 3 inches shorter, and she's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. So Pinheiro kind of on a little rough streak, you know, didn't get finished by Robertson, so that's good, but got finished by Hale, the legend. The loss to Reba. So then before that, she had, you know, the Hughes fight and the Watterson fight. I'm not crazy about this fight. I mean, I think Pennington should win. Much better cardio, much better striking. I think she has the grappling to stay safe. Takedown defense should hold up. Don't love the size of her, but Pinheiro is not the biggest woman either. She's pretty strong and physical. Maybe that can give Pennington some problems, but I'm not going to waste a ton of time here. The line is minus 350 Pennington, plus 275 Pinheiro. I can understand, you know, taking the dog shot. Pennington doesn't really separate. Did not look that great in the Carla Esparza fight. But she always fights close, you know, even in her losses, she's always fighting close. That's the problem with backing her. But at the same time, like, she's fighting better competition. Think she's the better striker, better cardio, better pace. Just don't like the age. Don't like the inactivity. She's not super active. She had, what, 1 fight last year? 2 fights, I guess, Ricci and Esparza. And like the Ricci performance wasn't that bad. You know, considering Ricci's like a solid fighter. She's not a championship level, but higher level than Pinheiro, in my opinion. Yeah, it's just not a fight I care much about. I like Pennington. Maybe like a Pennington round 3 prop. What is it? It's probably going to be plus 1,400 on Bet Online. FanDuel will give us, maybe, if we're lucky, plus 1,700. Not a fight I'm super passionate about for obvious reasons. Glenbot saying, can Luana get takedowns? I mean, like, probably. She can probably get a few. I don't see her getting a ton of control, though. Like, I can see her pulling the upset. It's just, do I want to trust her? Not really. Not really. There's a few underdogs that I would rather put my money on than Pinheiro in this fight. My guy Cody in the chat. What's good, Cody? He's calling me champ because I'm the champ of Wager Wars. Somehow that happened by accident. It is what it is. I'm hype about it. Excited for my next appearance. And we had to make sure Cody couldn't win his own show. I couldn't let that happen. Now I'm going to lose. I'm probably going to lose the next one, but it's nice. It's nice, you know? Champ is here. Glenbot saying he had round 3 Zahabi. Damn, you must have been going real crazy then. Cody saying he's still recovering from the beatdown. How much did I profit, Cody? Can you tell me? Because I actually don't know. For the show, I mean. Man, so for the Cutelaba fight, I wasn't watching fully. I had it on the side on my phone, and like I just saw glimpses, and like from the few glimpses I saw, it was just Modestus landing counters. So I really didn't understand what was going on with the fight clearly, because most people I know and have seen have been talking about Cutelaba winning it. And I just saw Modestus countering him nice like a few times when I glanced over. And I saw the live odds. It was like plus 450 or something going into the third. And I was like, should I play this? And then I was like, dude, you're not even watching. Like, don't play it. So I didn't. And then he wins the fight. Doesn't even deserve it, but probably should have hit those odds. All right. Let's move on because I'm not passionate about that fight at all. Oh, yeah. We're filling out predictions now these days. We'll go Pennington decision. How boring. All right. Hyun-Sung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. Park, he's going to be 9-0 undefeated, 29 years old. He's 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Hernandez on the other side, 10-4-0. He's 31, so he's 2 years older. He's going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to be have a 1 inch reach advantage. Another fight that like I'm not super passionate about. I mean, Park hasn't fought since the Shannon Ross fight. He was supposed to fight Toomey. Never happened. I wish it did. That would have been a good fight. Carlos Hernandez fought Toomey instead and beat him, Tumen Dembaro. And now they're making this one. It's like, I'm never really dying to play Carlos Hernandez unless he's like a big underdog because he just doesn't stand out. He's a solid striker. He's a serviceable striker, solid boxing, decent kicks. He can wrestle. He's a pretty good wrestler. Defensively, takedown defense is pretty good. His scrambling is pretty good. Nothing special, but you know, he's a serviceable fighter. He's a serviceable fighter, never going to break the top 15, but good enough to beat a lot of guys in the division. On the other side with Park, you know, I mean, I don't think he's the best. I tried to fade him on his road to UFC finals fight with Choi, and honestly, I thought that was a pretty good bet. I thought I'm pretty sure the scorecard said that Choi was winning till Park came back and got that finish. I just feel like with Park, there's a little bit of a lack of urgency. Not the most competent game plans, but he's a good striker. I think he's probably a cleaner striker than Hernandez. I think he maybe has a little bit more pop to his punches than somebody like Hernandez does, but I'm not like super high on Park striking either. Like I don't love his output. I think he's pretty hittable, and I think Carlos will be competitive with him. And then it's like, at least on the road to UFC, the majority of Park's advantage was like grappling, and Carlos Hernandez isn't easy to grapple. You can take him down, but good luck holding him down. He can get his own takedowns. He's a solid wrestler in his own right. So for me personally, this is a pass. I don't have a ton of interest. Like Park's at minus 175. Hernandez is at plus 150. To me, it's like similar to like the Katona fight against Bexot. Now, I did not expect that to go down like that, and I actually picked Katona to win. But the reason I didn't bet him as the underdog was even in his wins, like he's just not separating. He's getting 29-28s, you know? And with Carlos Hernandez, like, what's the only fight that he separated? I mean, he separated in the, who was it? Bondar, in the Bondar fight, kind of, where he got the finish and then didn't really get the finish. But for the most part, he doesn't really separate Hernandez. So not really dying to play him even as the underdog. But with Park, I'm definitely not laying the chalk because he also really doesn't separate. I don't really see him knocking out Hernandez. I struggle to see him submitting Hernandez. And if the line got wide enough, I wouldn't be opposed to a Hernandez play. But as of now, I don't have a ton of interest. I'll lean towards the younger guy who I think is a little bit better everywhere, a little bit cleaner of a striker, maybe hits a little bit harder and has maybe the slicker jiu-jitsu, but not a confident pick for me at all. And it's going to be a common theme this card, especially with this upcoming fight where I'm not passionate about a lot of these. But all right, let's catch up in the chat because I see Dan's over here saying smash the like button. Definitely listen to Dan, first of all. He knows what he's talking about. He's a wise guy. And then if for some reason you're not already following Dan, make sure you check out Half the Battle. His shows are always bangers. His last one for UFC 315 was sick. He had the Canadians on. Really dope show. I listened to it. Make sure you're checking out Dan. That's my guy and one of the OGs of the community. Let's see who else we got in here. We have people talking about the Modestas fight still. Dravi saying Park's going to finish Hernandez. Interesting. Let's see what else we got. Dravi thinks Park can win in any of three methods. There we go. Is that my guy? Dogfather? Calling me son. That's crazy. I mean, you're older than me and you're bald, so I guess I can permit it, but anyways, moving on. We got Denise Gomes versus Elise Reed. Gomes, 10-3-0. She's 25 years old, 5'2" with the 63-inch reach. On the other side, Elise Reed, 8-4-0. She's 32. She's 7 years older, 1 inch taller, and she's going to have the same reach. I really hate this fight. I've never been high on either of these people. I've faded Gomes plenty of times. Let's see. Definitely didn't fade her here. I actually played her ITD here and lost. I faded her here, lost, and that was a terrible bet. Great play on anybody who played her there. I bet on Hill. I feel like, I actually bet on I remember this one. I bet on Gomes there, but she was plus 300 to be fair. So like that was good. And then Bruna Brazil, I did bet on Bruna Brazil. So I've never really been high on Gomes. I bet on her when I think it's right, like against Uregi when she was plus 300 and against Carolina, but that was ITD, so I didn't even make any money from it. But I've never been high on Elise Reed either. I don't think I've ever bet on her, if I'm not mistaken. I've probably always tried to fade her. I think I left the Penny fight alone because she was a big favorite. I don't know if I did anything there. I probably bet Frey. I don't remember, but knowing myself, I probably bet Frey. Like, and then Melissa Martinez, I don't remember what I did there. That was a long either fighter. That's my point of going through the records there. For me personally, though, like, I rather bet on Reed than bet on Gomes here. Reed's ground game is horrible. I've always said it. I've always thought that her ground game was bad. I always thought that her takedown defense is bad. I've always thought that she's super deficient when she's on her back, and I still stand by that. Her last fight doesn't change much for me at all in that department. And didn't you say Gomes? Like, I think she fights stupid. I think she's kind of sloppy, but she's got the build for it. She's got the power. She's strong, physical, aggressive, a lot of good things. She's young, so the improvements are going to keep coming. And she's not terrible at anything. She's just not the cleanest ever. I think she can be out-grappled still, as long as it's somebody who can back it up with the striking, unlike Eduardo Mora. But she's solid. She's solid. She's nothing special. But in this fight, it's like, honestly, I think Reed is maybe a little bit cleaner of a striker. I think the output might be a little bit better at range, at least. But Reed is super hittable. Chin is kind of up there. I feel like if Gomes crashes the pocket, she can possibly knock out Reed. She can hurt Reed. She can win minutes or moments. Maybe not minutes. Maybe more so moments. I feel like Reed will be a better minute winner on the feet. As much as I've never been high on her like karate-ish style, like she looked pretty good in her last fight. I know doesn't mean the most with the opponent, but she looked pretty good in terms of like the output, the pace. It's a clear dogger pass. Like if Gomes decides to come out here and wrestle and just try to grapple Reed, which she pretty much never really does. She's gone for the occasional takedown. She's not primarily a grappler. She's a striker. She's primarily a brawler. But if Reed's using her range, using her movement, which she can do, and she's frustrating Gomes, and Gomes isn't getting the takedowns, this is a winnable fight for Reed. I think the line's definitely wrong. I don't think that Gomes is enough of a grappler to make her, like, what is she now? Minus 600, minus 550 lines kind of coming in on Reed. Like, is Gomes that proficient of a grappler that like we want to back her at minus 550? Because on the feet, yeah, she has the power edge, but she's not like technically better than Reed. Skill for skill, she's not the better striker than Reed. So then if you're back in minus 550, you're saying she's going to take down, in my opinion, you're saying she's going to take down Reed. She's going to control Reed and possibly finish her on the ground. And it's a possibility, but I don't rate her grappling that highly. I'm probably going to pass, but I will say Reed money line and Reed decision. Those are tempting to me for a small shot. I've never been high on her skills, but like Gomes is 25. And while that's a good thing, we talk about it all the time, young and still improving. Young fighters tend to make a lot of mistakes. I've talked about this before. This is one of the reasons I like to fade Yasmin Lucendo, and it finally paid off. But young fighters make mistakes, and we saw that against Till with Gomes. Gomes could have won that fight, but she made a ton of mistakes, lost it for herself, and the fight IQ is a problem, and I think part of it is the youth. So I could never lay minus 550 on her. I could never trust her at that price. I think that's ludicrous. And if I am to bet on it, it would be Reed, and probably Reed by decision, because I don't see a Reed finish. Even if Gomes is like exhausted, I'd be pretty surprised if Reed finished her. So yeah, we can move on. Not a fight I care a ton about. In terms of a pick, I don't know. Gomes decision, I guess. Beats up Reed, takes her down maybe. Like, I think she's a rightful favorite. I'll pick her to win. A lot of these fights are just so... This fight's kind of interesting to me. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about this one, but I actually kind of like this fight. Drinking No Things is... he's talking about the Hernandez fight. Hernandez or pass. I agree with you, at least at the current line, but I don't know. It's a fight I need to think about a little bit more. Cody's saying he had his first losing night, so it was only right to catch the L. He's talking about Wager Wars. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, make sure you check out Wager Wars. It's a show hosted by Cody. Really, really fun show. Really great idea by him. He brings on people from the community. We all compete against each other. You got to bet on every single fight, at least a unit, which makes things difficult. And It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of guys who are very sharp on there, and you should definitely check out that show. And my guy Cody in general. All right, let's move on. So Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa. Santos 8-2-0. She's going to be 25 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. On the other side, Lisboa 7-2-0. She's 34, so she's going to be 9 years older. She's going to be 1 inch taller, and she's going to have the same reach. Worth noting, Santos is moving up to bantamweight for this fight. She's been struggling with the weight cuts. We know that, so it makes some decent sense. And Lisboa, she's been at bantamweight since she made her debut. She fought Jessica Rose Clark. Pretty sure I bet Clark there and lost on that, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Ravina Oliveira fight, I honestly did not remember about until I watched it back, and really didn't remember anything about it. I don't think I bet that one. So for this one, like, the main problem for me is with Lisboa, there's kind of a big red flag, right? She's been out, I want to say 2 years. No, a year and a half. She's been out a year and a half. And during the Ravina Oliveira fight, she tore something in her knee, and she had to have surgery for it. And that's why she's been out for so long. She had surgery on her knee. And at 34 years old with a knee surgery, and you're out a year and a half, to me, that's kind of a problem. Gwenbot's saying Lisboa has been at the PI since December waiting for a fight. So that's how many months now? January, February, March, April, May, 5 months. But, you know, the whole time she's still recovering from that knee thing. At least for a year, she was recovering from the knee surgery. So it's just, to me, that's a red flag that I have to worry about a little bit. Now, it would be a bigger concern if she was the favorite and I was considering backing her, but she's not. She's a decent sized underdog. The odds right now, plus 140 on Lisboa, minus 160 on Santos. I'll be honest, I've never been high on Santos, ever. I finally got the fade right with Casey O'Neill last time out against Agapova. Wasn't Agapova like plus 450? I probably bet on Agapova. I bet this was the fight. If you guys have been watching me, at least this year, you've probably heard me say that I don't bet spreads at chalk anymore. I love spreads. I still think they're a great angle. And when they first came around, I was betting them at chalk. You know, you give me a spread I like at minus 175, I'm going to lay it no matter what. But after this one, that's when I was like, I'm done laying them at chalk, because that's when I learned my lesson. Because she won, Stephanie Egger won around there. I thought that was clear. 29-28, Santos wins against Egger. So I should have cashed my plus 3.5. But I don't. Because the judges couldn't even agree about the round that Egger won. And then one of the judges just said, nah, it's 30-27. So that's what cost me on the 3.5. And that's why you don't bet them at chalk, because your read could be perfect. It could be a close fight. Your fighter fought competitive, won a round clearly, lost, but won a round clearly. And one bad judge who says, nah, that was a 30-27. That's what costs you on the spread. If you had the spread for plus money, okay. But if you're laying chalk on the spread, that sucks. That's why I don't lay chalk on spreads anymore. It was that fight in particular. But I've never been super high on Luana Santos. And when I was watching her taped, it was today, actually. I was watching it during my break. And I was just not crazy about her at all. Like, is her striking that good? I don't think it's that good. I think her striking is kind of just decent. Her kicks are pretty good. I'd say the kicks are pretty good. She has a good jab. But like, she gets pretty sloppy with it. Her output isn't that great. And the one fight where she threw a ton of output against when she got Miller out of there, she was throwing extremely wild. She was being so sloppy because she wasn't worried about what was coming back from Miller, right? Miller has no power, but the striking just did not look great. Overall, output is pretty low. Striking is not that clean. It's decent, and she's 25, so I'm sure it's improving and it'll keep getting better, you know, training at a solid camp. But as of right now, despite the UFC stats numbers, I don't rate her striking defense. I think she's hittable. I don't rate her striking. I think she can be taken down. And like she's a judo black belt. Her throws and her trips are solid, but she's coming up a weight class now against Lisboa, who's big. She's a big woman. She's strong, physical. She's pretty sure she's at least mostly a career bantamweight. Pretty sure she's been at bantamweight her whole career. And I just don't know if those trips and throws are going to work on her. And in her own right, she comes from a Muay Thai background. So you would think maybe like grappler versus striker. But you watch her in the Jessica Rose Clark fight. You watch her in the Ravina Oliveira fight. Yeah, she was taken down. But A, those weren't really the kind of takedowns and trips and throws that Santos is going for. And B, for the most part, she's very quick at getting back up. Where I notice she starts to not be as good as getting back up, it's in round 3. In round 3, Lisboa starts to get tired a little bit, I think. And even though she came back against Clark in the third round, even though in the third round she got up from under Clark after being controlled like 3 minutes and got the sub, in both the Clark fight and the Ravina Oliveira fight, she was controlled on her back in the third round for like 3 minutes. So while most of the time her takedown defense is good and her get-ups are good, as the fight progresses, she seems to be a little bit more willing to be off of her back. Now, she is threatening some pretty good submissions off of her back. She's throwing up elbows. She busted up Jessica Clark with the elbows. That's what you want to see. That's good things, but I don't want to see them just doing that for 3 minutes. Like, do that for 30 seconds and then try to get back up. Don't just do that for 3 minutes and chill there and then hope you're able to get back up on your feet. So that's kind of my concern with Lisboa outside of the red flags of her, having the surgery is I'm not crazy about her cardio, and I'm not crazy about her off her back as the fight extends. And Santos has some pretty good control. Like, while I'm not sold on her easily taking down Lisboa, if she takes her down, I think she can probably keep her there for a decent amount of time. She doesn't throw any crazy ground and pound or anything like that, but she can threaten subs. She's relatively dangerous on the ground as Luana Santos. So, look, at the end of the day, it's clearly Lisboa or pass for me. On the feet, I don't think I talked about the striking too much. I talked about the striking of Santos, but not so much Lisboa. Like, her striking's good. I like it. I don't love her defense. Her chin is a little bit high, and I wish her output was a little bit better. But overall, I would say that her striking is good. Like, skill for skill, I think this is a very close fight. I think that the physicality, the size clearly goes to Lisboa. I think the striking goes to Lisboa. I think that the offensive grappling goes to Santos, but Lisboa has been mixing in the grappling too. And honestly, I really like her grappling because she'll mix it up, right? She'll go outside trip, or she'll go double leg, and then finish it with the trip on the outside. She's honestly a pretty clean wrestler, and I wouldn't be shocked if she came out here and got her own takedowns. But then I wonder, like, is the knee going to cause problems? Is the knee surgery going to maybe make that not as much of a factor? Because if we set aside that red flag, if that didn't happen, if she never had that surgery and she was fine, I would 100% play her as the underdog here, without a doubt. At plus 140, I would play her. But I have to acknowledge the surgery at least think about it. And with that, and the fact that, Santos is 25 and she took time off of the Casey O'Neill fight, probably has improved since then. Like, I think Santos is the rightful favorite based off of youth, maybe grappling upside, and just the fact that, she's got a higher ceiling. But in terms of a bet, this is a clear dog or pass for me. I don't have any interest on laying chalk on Santos. I never did. And with Lisboa, if the price goes wide enough, like then I do it. Then I can, kind of put the red flags aside. But for now, plus 140 isn't enough for me to be like, 9-year age disadvantage, coming off a knee surgery, could get out grappled. That's not going to be enough. I'm going to need more than plus 140. But I do favor her physicality and striking, and I don't rate Santos. And also, I talked about the cardio of Lisboa, but Santos's cardio isn't much better, in my opinion. I think she's also pretty gassy. So, yeah, it's dog or pass. Let's see what we got going on in the chat. Just some talking here. Leroy in the chat. What's up, Leroy? Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. Daz saying age difference makes the difference. That's for sure. Father Time is undefeated. And all right, so let's move on. We got Connor Mathews versus Yadier DelValle. DelValle? I'll say DelValle. Mathews, 7-3-0, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Yadier, he's 8-0, undefeated, 28. So he's going to be 4 years younger. He's 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. So I've always been super high on Yadier. I've had him on my prospects list for a while now. I did try to fade him on the Contender Series, but only because I was getting a pretty decent underdog price on Montero, who I thought was pretty good. But Yadier handled business, and he looked really good doing it there. He looked super dominant, was getting the takedowns, caused a ton of damage, and just looked good everywhere. He's a guy who I used to consider mostly a grappler. And I would still probably say that his grappling is better than his striking, but he's a solid striker in his own right. He's a good grappler, good control, can take the back nicely, and he can set a pace. He hits pretty hard. With Connor Mathews was the first ever fighter interview that I ever did. So he's got a special place in my heart, and I've always rooted for him. I backed him against Bazookia and lost there. Against Delgado, I don't remember. I definitely didn't bet him, but, I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's, the greatest either. He's serviceable everywhere. He's not phenomenal at anything, but he's also not terrible at anything. He's a solid striker. He's really hittable, though. That's kind of the problem. He's got a decent amount of power in his own right, but nothing to really write home about. And then his wrestling's pretty good offensively. He can wrestle. He can get takedowns. He can grind guys out. But he can also be taken down, and he's improved that aspect of his game. The last time we really saw him really get out wrestled, it was against what's his name on the Contender Series, Marshall. And I actually talked to him there, and I talked to Connor Mathews about it when I was interviewing him, and he actually said he went and trained with Francis Marshall after that. And I really liked his mindset. Like, the dude went and he tried to learn from the guy, continued to try to improve his grappling, and then came in on his second Contender Series appearance, and he was the one out grappling his opponent. So he's a guy who, he works for it. He works hard, but the fight IQ is also not the best. Against Bazookia, he was clearly capable of out grappling him, and then chose to strike with him, which ended up costing him. He's just a little bit too hittable, and while the price is a little bit crazy for Yadier here, minus 420, I don't have any interest in fading him either. I think that Yadier, I don't really think he's that much better of a striker. I think the striking will be relatively competitive, honestly, but I think Yadier can take him down. I think Yadier can land a lot of damage there. I think his pace is going to be really good. I trust his fight IQ a little bit better, and overall, I just think he has a higher ceiling. So for me, I'm probably going to pass. I don't see a lot of ways to bet this. I'm going to kind of target. There's a few things I want to look at. Maybe counter violence and maybe late DelValle props, but that's going to be something that I'm going to think about throughout the week. And if you want my notes, my bets, my breakdowns, those are all going to be through my Dub Club. Link in the description of this video. Use Couch Warrior Pod for 20% off. And if it doesn't work for some reason, hit me up and we'll get it going. But we're going to go with DelValle. We're going to go with round 3 TKO. That's what we're going to go with. Next up, we've got Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises. Jared Gordon, 27-0. He's going to be 36 years old, 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. On the other side, we got Moises. He's 19-8-0. He's 30, so he's 6 years younger. He's going to be the same height, and he's going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage. This fight's tricky. I lean towards the Gordon side, but what's the line? Pick him. Yeah, Gordon's minus 118 on BetOnline. So Gordon's kind of the slight favorite now. I think pick'em makes sense. I slightly lean towards Gordon just because I trust him more. I feel like Moises is a guy who you just cannot trust. I trusted him against Ogden, and I bet him there at chalk. And my reasoning was I was fairly certain that if Ogden ended up on his back, he would get stuck there. And I was right about that. But I was wrong in that I thought Moises would be the one to get him down, and it would not be through Ogden's own mistakes. So I got a little lucky there, laying chalk on Moises. But that's really the only reason I went for it. Here against Gordon, it's like Moises is clearly the better guy in pure jiu-jitsu, yes. But do I see him really out-grappling Gordon and easily taking him down and submitting him? No. Do I see him easily controlling Gordon? Not really. Gordon's not the easiest guy to hold down. He's not the easiest guy to take down. He's got pretty good counter grappling. He's got solid jiu-jitsu in his own right. I don't think he's going to be Moises is clearly the more credentialed grappler, more credentialed jiu-jitsu guy, but I don't really see him finishing Gordon on the ground at a high clip, and I certainly don't see him knocking Gordon out. And then with Gordon, I just think he's a better minute winner on the feet. I think he has better fight IQ. I don't think he's going to try to take the fight to the ground because that would probably be a mistake for him. But if he did, I think he could probably also stay safe for the most part. Now, Moises, is he still at Fight Nerds? I don't know if he's at Fight Nerds or not anymore. I know he did the camp there going into the Ogden fight. He won, but I wouldn't say they helped him all that much. And as we know, they don't really help the visitors all that much. Doesn't really do them a great deal of benefit. But yeah, this is a fight that it's hard to be really confident on either side, in my opinion. If you made me place a bet, it would be on Gordon, but I would have strongly preferred the underdog odds. If I got to this fight when, if I got to tape this fight when Gordon was still the underdog, because he was, I probably would have bet him, because I think this is about 50-50. I think that's the proper line. And I lean towards the Gordon side. But at straight pick 'em, I don't have much interest. If something drastic happens with the line, yeah, I'll get in on Gordon. But, Moises is the younger guy. He's still only 30. He could be, he could continue to improve. Just not a fight I care a ton about, and definitely not one I'm trying to put my money on. Glenbot saying Moises more active and 2-0 against Killcliff guys. Okay. And he'll be a new dad in 1.5 months. And he's an American top team. Yeah, I get it. I don't trust the guy. I don't trust his fight IQ whatsoever. And I don't think he separates in a lot of his fights. And I don't really think he's going to separate here. So for me, it's Gordon decision, but I'm not going to be backing that with my money at all. This fight's fun. This fight's cool. All right, we got Matheus Camilo versus Gabe Green. Camilo, he's 9-2-0, 24 years old, super young, 5'9", and don't have his reach, but I do know he's training at Extreme Couture, training with Mairon Santos, who we'll be talking about in 2 fights. So training with him, solid training partner, a little small, but it is what it is. On the other side with Gabe Green, 11-5-0. He's 32 years old, so he's 8 years older, 1 inch taller, and he's gonna have that 73-inch reach. So to start us off, if you're not familiar with Camilo, he is not a Contender Series guy. What happened was, if you guys remember that one press conference where the Russian guy pulled up, I don't remember his name perfectly. It's right here. Dorobshka Nabatov. So Nabatov pulled up to a press conference and he was like, Dana, I'm undefeated. Sign me. And credit to the guy, shoot your shot. He went for it, that's for sure. And Dana, I think initially Dana said, yeah, sure. And then he ended up putting him on the Korean Zombie card that was coming up. Korean Zombie started his own fight promotion. And Dana did Dana White's looking for a fight. They put him up against Camilo. And lo and behold, Camilo pulls up and beats him. Beats Nabatov, beats the guy who Dana came to look at, and gets signed instead. So that's how we got him. And he's a guy who, he's good. He is a good fighter. He's clearly still green. He's been submitted twice. One of them, Arik Mercado, I think is his name. Not the best look, but he was 21 or 20 when that fight happened. And his other submission loss, he was 19 when it happened. So he's a guy who's still developing. He's still getting better. But on the feet, you can kind of see that he trains with Mairon Santos. Very similar style. I think he's a very slick striker, very slick counters, good boxing, good kicks, really good body work. My only thing I don't like about the striking is I don't like his output. I think his output is a little bit low. I think that's a problem. And my other issues with him are I'm worried that he's a little gassy. His cardio held up in the Nabatov fight, but he did slow down. And then you look at the Dorian Ramos fight. And Dorian Ramos, you guys might recognize him. He lost to Bashi on last season of Contender Series. Then he lost to Aswell on the regionals. But he's a solid guy. He's a solid grappler. He's nothing special. And Camilo got real tired there. He ended up finishing that fight, ended up getting a triangle, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there it is. He got the triangle armbar. But he got taken down in that 3rd round. He was taking deep breaths in the 2nd and the 3rd round. So the cardio is also a concern. And then my last concern is I don't think he's 5'9". I don't. Because first off, Nabatov, his Tapology says 5'6" for some reason. And he was taller than Camilo. Okay. But even against other opponents, Camilo doesn't look 5'9" to me. So I need to see the face-offs. Because if they're the same size, okay. If Gabe's a decent bit bigger, that's another concern for me. Because Camilo, I still think, is deficient in the takedown defense. Even though it's improved and he's dangerous off his back, I still think he can be taken down. And if Gabe's going to have the physicality difference there, the size difference, that might be something. But the problem with Gabe is he's also been out for a long time. He's been out for a year and 11 months. He's coming off of a fight where he got knocked out immediately because he just came running at Brian Battle with the terrible game plan and got knocked out. Before that, he got hurt really badly against Johan Lainez in a fight that he won. And he's a guy whose chin, while I would argue that maybe the chin's not that bad because he got knocked out by a hard hitter in Battle. And, he got hurt by Lainez pretty badly, but he recovered really well. But now he's moving down from 170 to 155. Now, it's not something new. Gabe Green has fought at 155, but that was a while ago. That was like 2018, I think, was his last fight at 155. And something I was curious about, because, I mentioned Camilo's cardio isn't great. And Gabe Green does have really good cardio, and he has really good pace. When I was taping it, I was curious. I was like, okay, so at 170, he's got good pace, good cardio. But how about when he was at 155? Was his cardio worse because he was draining himself? And honestly, I don't think it was that much worse. No, it seemed like even at 155, he had good cardio. Now, he was younger. Now he's older. It's not going to get any easier to cut the weight. Maybe now it'll affect his cardio more. But as of now, I have to say that Gabe Green's probably going to have I'm pretty confident that he's going to have the better cardio. And with all the concerns I told you guys about Matheus Camilo being green, about his grappling still not being that good, about his cardio not being the best, and about him possibly being too small. He's minus 230 right now against Gabe Green. And if Gabe makes the weight cut well, he's going to be the bigger guy for sure. He's going to be the more physical guy. His striking is not nearly as clean as Camilo's. It's much more wild, but he's good at getting guys into that brawl with him. And the output's going to be much higher than Camilo's. He's going to be throwing much more than him. And honestly, if somebody was to go get takedowns and actually land them, I would lean towards it being Green. I don't necessarily think he will, but I think if one of the two of them does get takedowns, I lean towards that being Green. So while I think Camilo is the rightful favorite because of youth, because he's a much cleaner, slicker striker, and because he's dangerous off of his back, so if Green does take him down, maybe he'll be very dangerous there. So a slight favorite would have made some sense, but because of all the things I just listed, I can't get behind Camilo at minus 230. If anything, I'm more interested in Green, but at the same time, he's been out for a while. He just got knocked out brutally. Not just, it was 2 years ago, but his last fight, he got knocked out brutally. Now he's moving down a weight class, and he's really hittable even at his best. So not dying to make a play, but it is dog or pass for me. I'll pick Camilo, but at this line, it's definitely a dog or pass. Yeah, Camilo. I think decision is sneaky. I think two things are sneaky, honestly. I think Fight Goes is sneaky because it's plus 140. Everybody's convinced that Camilo is just going to knock out Green. I need to see the face-offs to get an idea of what they're actually going to look like next to each other. Because a lot of these regionals, it gives me a hard time when I'm taping it because the camera angles and everything are different. And I can't gauge how big or small somebody is. But like if he's not the same size as Green, if he's quite a bit smaller, I kind of like that Fight Goes because I'm not sold that he's going to knock out Green. I'm not sold that he's going to finish Green. And maybe Green can finish him late, but I don't really think he's going to either. Camilo seems pretty durable. He has been submitted before, and Green's got 6 subs, but not really super high on that. So Fight Goes could be sneaky at plus money. And then, Fight Ends by submission could be sneaky depending on the price too. Because I know I just said that I don't think they're going to sub each other, but the possibility's there. Camilo has been subbed twice, a little bit gassy, not the best takedown defense. Green has those 6 submission wins, so that's possible. And then they priced Camilo sub at what? Plus 800. And then Green sub was plus 13. Looks like somebody went big on it, and now it's plus 750. But like I said, Green has 6 submissions. Maybe he can pull it off against Camilo, who's been subbed before and can get tired. So if Fight Ends by sub with something like, I don't know, I would need my odds converter to give you an accurate number. But off the top of my head, like, give me plus 450, plus 500. I could be interested in the Fight Ends by submission, but I don't know that they're going to give me that. So we can move on. Next up, we've got a banger of a fight. We have Julian Erosa versus Melquizael Costa. Erosa, he's going to be 31, 11, and 0, 35 years old, 6'1" with a 74.5-inch reach. Costa, 23, 7, and 0, 28. So he's going to be 7 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 3.5-inch reach disadvantage. Real quick, catching up with the chat. Glenbot saying, how will Gabe look at 155? It's a great question. He's done 155 before, but he was younger then. Sub 2-3 live, maybe. Like I said, Camilo a little gassy in my opinion. And adrenaline dump is live. Dad's saying Camilo looks better everywhere. I agree for the most part. I do. He seems more technical. But anyways, for this fight, Costa versus Erosa. Awesome fight. Erosa was one of the first guys I was targeting at plus 190 when his price was plus 190. I was like, okay, that stands out. Let me tape it. And by the time I taped it, some people, including some friends of mine in the space, just so happened to crash the line on me and play it pretty hard. And now the line, he's still decent plus money, but plus 157 now. You can get plus 160 on DraftKings. I just think this is a pretty close fight. I think Costa's the rightful favorite, but I think it should only be slight, like 55, 60% max. Like, I think 60% on Costa's fair. I think anything past that is a little bit too much. So I do think the line is wide. Like on the feet, I think Erosa is liable to throw more volume, uses his hands a little bit better, in my opinion. Costa a little bit more of a varied attack, but they both mix it up really well. Both of them have great body kicks. Both of them have good boxing with the hands. Both of them, for the most part, have good output. But at the end of the day, who's more durable? Costa. Erosa, as much as I love the dude, as much money as he's made me, I still think he's kind of chinny. I'll bet him when he's a big enough underdog. I've done it many times, but that's always going to be a concern. And at 35, he's not getting any younger. He's close to 36. He's absorbed a ton of damage at this point because he's not the most defensively sound. Costa, I would say, is a little bit better defensively, more durable. Costa's not the hardest hitter, in my opinion. I don't think he's a tremendous power puncher, or, his kicks are pretty hard, but I don't think it's anything insane. But so I don't really think he's going to knock out Erosa, but if somebody gets knocked out, I lean towards it being Erosa. And then in the grappling, both of them are pretty slick with the jiu-jitsu in different ways. Erosa, a little bit more slick off his back defensively. Costa, he's a guy who can take you down. I think he's a little bit better on top than Erosa is, a little bit more dangerous on top than Erosa is. But yeah, like I said, to me, this is a very close fight. It's a clear dogger pass at the current line. I think Costa, like I said, 60% is fine based off of youth, based off of the fact he's more durable, maybe a more technical striker. But Erosa always brings that fight. He puts his opponents on the back foot. Always throwing output, throwing volume, mixes up to the body really well, which I love about Erosa. Like, you can't take a ton from the Elkins fight, but he's 8-3 since returning to the UFC. The dude's just been an absolute dog. He's got that dog in him. He's a guy who I love to back as an underdog. And if the line comes back up a little bit, I could get involved. But look, realistically, I can see him getting knocked out, and I can also see him getting top timed. Because Costa, while he's not wrestling a ton recently, he can wrestle. He's a solid offensive wrestler. Erosa, not the best takedown defense in the world, and can get stuck on his back. And I could see Costa just riding him out. So pick will be Costa. I'll go Costa decision. What's the total on this? That's interesting. I lean towards the fight going the distance here, personally. I know everybody's thinking like they can sub each other, but I think they're both defensively sound enough in the jiu-jitsu to hold up. And then Erosa could get knocked out. He could. But I don't really see Costa as a huge power hitter. Fight goes as plus 140, over 2.5, plus 121. On the total, I lean towards over. But I also love my sketchy overs, and maybe this isn't the best spot for one, so we'll see. Probably going to pass, but it'll be Costa for me in terms of a pick, but it is dogger pass. Let's see what we got in the chat. Daz saying, come on, Juicy J. Glenbot saying, Erosa Gilly incoming. Entirely possible. Costa's 34% on takedown attempts will leave him open to front chokes. Yeah, could be. I think he's pretty good in terms of the jiu-jitsu in his own right, but it's possible. All right. But this is the fight I'm hype about. If you know me, you already know where I'm going with this. But we've got Nursulton Ruziboev versus Dustin Stolzfus. Ruziboev, 35, 9 and 2, 31 years old, 6'5" with a 76-inch reach. Stolzfus, 16, 6 and 0. He's 33, 2 years older. He's going to be 5 inches shorter, though, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. I think it's Stolzfus season. I think he's going to get it done. I think he's going to get it done by decision. I'm picking him outright. And you can probably guess that means I'm probably going to bet on him. That'll be my free bet of the week. Dustin Stolzfus money line. I played plus 225. I like the plus 240 then, obviously. Look, I've never been high on Ruziboev. I'm still not high on Ruziboev. It's possible he's getting better. Sure, he's at a good camp. He's training with good dudes. But I'm just not high on him. His striking's solid. His output's not the best. He's still very hittable, in my opinion. And I still think that if you take him down and you can stay safe from the elbows and the submission attempts, you can win the fight. You can win the minutes. And I'm fairly confident Stolzfus can do that. Now, full disclosure, I bet Eric McConaughey against Ruziboev. And I'll tell you this much. Maybe it was a bad bet at that line. I'm still confident McConaughey could have beaten him. I think that anybody who's seen McConaughey fight before, who saw that fight, like, look, I'm never one to say, like, oh, a fighter was scared or something, but, like, I think McConaughey was a little shook, a little overwhelmed by the bright lights, maybe was a little nervous about the opponent, because he doesn't fight like that. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything against Ruziboev. He just was a punching bag. And that's not the same person I've seen on the tape. And like I said, probably a bad bet at those odds. But I think that a lot of that was just McConaughey being really overwhelmed with the debut. Stolzfus is at this point is a UFC vet. I still remember his Dana White's Contender Series fight against Pyfer. I bet on Pyfer and lost because of the injury, and that was the most. I hated Stolzfus for a second after that. But the dude's good. The dude's good. He's made me money as an underdog. He's come through, and he's a guy who is his striking the best in the world? No, but it's serviceable. It's solid. He's got a good jab. He follows it up well. The combinations are solid. The boxing is solid. Can he stand that range with Ruziboev? No, Ruziboev is just too big, too long, but goes the distance and box with him. I think he 100% can do it. Now, will the chin hold up? That's a concern. That's a very fair and valid concern. But he's fought hard hitters before, and he has survived. He's also fought hard hitters and been knocked out. So, look, I'm going into this fully understanding that he can get knocked out here. But I would never lay the chalk or even pick a guy who I think only wins by knockout. Like, I would never bet somebody minus 350 or whatever it is, minus 375, when their upside is a knockout, when their win condition is probably a knockout. Like, based off of what we know about Ruziboev, is he going to decision Stolzfus? I'd be really surprised. I don't think he's a great minute winner. And considering the styles and that Stolzfus is a great grappler, a good wrestler, I don't see Ruziboev winning the minutes here. So I don't see him winning a decision. And can he sub Stolzfus? He has subs off his back. He trains with dangerous grapplers, but Stolzfus is a really good grappler in his own right. I don't see him being submitted. And I think he has the better cardio. He might not be the more durable out of the two of them, but he has the better cardio. I'm pretty damn certain about that. So I think he can grind out Ruziboev, survive the first round bombs, mix in some takedowns, and I think this is a super winnable fight for Stolzfus. I think Stolzfus at a decision at plus 700, plus 600 is stupid. I think the money line is stupid. And I think outside of Ruziboev knocking him out in the first round, I think Stolzfus gets it done. That's my own personal opinion. Knock on wood. I hope I don't jinx anything. But I do like Stolzfus here. To me, he's the side, and I'm picking him outright. I think he's going to get the job done. Just need that chin to hold up. And I get it. Abus knocked him out. Who was it? It was Bruno Ferreira knocked him out. I get it. And those guys are definitely comparable to Ruziboev in power and ability to, land a big shot. But Abus is at least a guy who is not easy to out grapple. He's not an easy guy to out grapple. Bruno Ferreira also not super easy to out grapple. Quite gassy, but not easy to out grapple. In my opinion, Ruziboev is pretty easy to out grapple, and I think that's going to be a clear path for Stolzfus here. So yeah, it's Dustin for me. Next up, we've got Sodiq Yussuf versus Mairon Santos. Yussuf, he's going to be 13-4-0, 31 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Santos on the other side, 15-1-0, 24. He's going to be 7 years younger, same height, 1-inch reach advantage for him, for Santos. So this is kind of crazy, right? Santos fights Marshall, big favorite. Everybody and their mom bets Marshall. I didn't. I did not have a bet there. Thank God, because I would have been furious because you guys all got robbed. Anybody who bet Marshall made a phenomenal bet. Everybody knows Marshall won that fight. I think I know one person who still to this day says, oh my God, it's been a long day, says that Santos won, but that's about it. I think we all know that he did not win that fight. And then he gets a step up against Sodiq Yussuf, and I get it. Sodiq got knocked out by Diego Lopez, but Diego was just a favorite over Volk. People favored Diego to get the belt over Alexander Volkanovski. All right, and that was Yussuf's last fight, and Yussuf was what, like plus 125 there? I know because I bet Yussuf and lost there. Before that, he had the fight against Edson Barbosa. Really good first round. And then Barbosa just came back and kind of cooked him over 4 rounds. But, like, you know, you go back a little bit. He had a competitive fight against Caceres, but almost everybody Caceres fights close with him. Against Arnold Allen, he lost, but he did pretty good against Arnold Allen. He made Arnold have to grapple with him. He outstruck him, in my opinion. And then in this fight, it's like, you know Santos isn't going to wrestle because he's completely grappling deficient, at least offensively. And then with the takedown defense, you know, everybody points to the Argueta loss. Yeah, he got taken down, got beat up, got finished. But he was down a weight class. He was like 20, 21 years old. It happens. And he's got a long, lanky frame. And then he went on the Ultimate Fighter, and, you know, he fought 2 guys who are wrestlers. Not Barbosa. Oh, they don't show it here. The Barbosa win was a good one. But then before Ofli, he had, it was Guillermo Torres, I think, who is a wrestler, but he's kind of old and doesn't have any striking to back it up with. And Santos did a good job defending there, but it wasn't a super impressive performance. And then he beat Edwin Cooper. And Edwin's a good wrestler, but Edwin stopped wrestling after the first round, and he won the first round, was able to control Santos up against the fence, couldn't really keep him on the ground. Santos was able to get back up a little bit, but after that didn't really go for the takedowns. And then Con Ofli, a guy who I bet him against Santos, terrible bet because he didn't wrestle at all. I thought he would, but he attempted, I think, 1 takedown or 0. It was either 0 or 1. So Santos is and then Francis Marshall comes in and actually starts taking him down. So has the takedown defense improved a ton? It's improved. I think it's improved for sure since the Argueta fight. I don't know if it's quite there yet, but Sodiq Yussuf isn't much of a wrestler. He'll mix it in. He's done it before. I don't know that he's going to do it here, but maybe. But he's not really much of a wrestling threat. So I think we're going to be on the feet. I think this is going to be a striking affair. And then it's just like, I don't know. I'll pick Santos. I'll lean his side because he's younger, lanky. I really like his striking a lot. And, you know, I think I like his striking more than Sodiq's. Sodiq's a really good striker, but I really like Santos's game. I love the clinch game. I love the Muay Thai in general, the knees, the combinations, targets the body really, really nicely. He's only 24. You know, the sky's the limit with the guy. He's at a great camp at Extreme Couture. He's going to keep getting better and better and better. And I think he's probably the more durable guy. He's definitely the guy who's taken less damage. And we're probably getting a better price on him because he didn't win that Marshall fight and got it anyways. But part of me also feels like this line might be about right. Like, is he really going to, if he doesn't knock out Sodiq, is he really going to separate? I'm not convinced about that. Sodiq is a really good striker in his own right. Also targets the body really nicely. Good combinations. I think at range and in the clinch, I lean towards Santos. But like in boxing range, it's going to be close. It's not going to be a blowout, I don't think, for Santos. But at the end of the day, because I think it'll be on the feet for the most part, because I think that Santos I like his striking more because I think he's more durable, younger, higher ceiling. I think the price is about right. And I think it makes sense for him to be, like minus 130. I see that it's going to like minus 143 on Bet Online. Like, I guess I can argue 60%. It just feels crazy. It feels crazy to me because Sodiq's just fought at a much higher level. So I'm like, Santos is coming off of a fight that he lost. Now we're making him a favorite over Sodiq. Based off of what? Sodiq getting knocked out and losing to Barbosa? Like, I get it. But this is probably going to be close if Sodiq doesn't get knocked out. So, pretty torn on the fight. I'll pick Santos. This is like the number one fight I have on my list of retaping. Because, like, part of me wants to take advantage, like maybe minus 135 is a steal on Santos. He's much younger, absorbed much less damage. I think he's more dangerous right now. And like I said, I like his striking better. I'm just not positive whether there's value or not on the current line. So this is a fight that I need to come back to. It's a number one fight that I want to come back to. For now, we'll go with Santos' decision, but it's a really tricky fight. Let's see. Let's catch up with the chat real quick because I see Mushroom popping off in here. What's up, Mushroom? Good to see you, my brother. Always a pleasure when you join us in the chat. And then Cody over here. I'm glad you're on Stoltz with me. Let's go, brother. Let's go. Stolzfus Army. And this is fair. I think this is definitely fair, and I actually haven't heard too many people say it. Like, he lost the Marshall fight, but Marshall always had that takedown upside, right? Marshall also kind of beat him on the feet, but that might have been because of the threat of the takedown. Sodiq technically is an easier matchup because he's just a striker, and he's an older striker with more damage absorbed. Makes him. I definitely know what you mean, and I kind of agree with you. Not never, but rarely. But anyways, moving on. We got our co-main event of the evening. This is going to be an all-timer, that's for sure. We have Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. Craig 17-9-1. He's 37, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. Bellato 12-2-1. He's 29, so he's 8 years younger. Same height, 1.5-inch reach advantage. I'm never, ever going to bet on Bellato at minus 500. There's zero chance. He's too sloppy, too much of a dummy, too hittable, and just he's good, but he's not like amazing. And then Paul Craig, like, Paul's a legend. Paul's always live for a sub. But I don't see a ton of upside here. Like, on the feet, Bellato is a mess, but he's a better striker than Craig. He hits harder than Craig. He's more durable than Craig. Better recovery than Craig. So I favor Bellato on the feet. Definitely think he has more power. If someone was to actually land takedowns, I think it would be Bellato. But then he has to stay safe. Like, I lean towards him actually being able to stay safe against Paul, but Paul can really submit anybody. So while I think Bellato stays safe most of the time, I would never bet for minus 500 because I expect him at some point to find himself on top here because that's just him. I cannot see him just standing for 15 minutes and striking with Craig like Kai Barallo did. I don't see that. So I think at some point, whether he knocks him down or decides to take him down, he's going to end up on Craig. And I think he's probably going to stay safe, but he can be submitted. And then Cody's saying here he thinks Craig could chin him. I get it, but like, I don't think Craig is the guy to do it. I know my boy Igor did, but first of all, Igor could have been champion. Second of all, say what you want about Igor, all jokes aside. That dude hits. He can hit pretty hard. I don't really rate the striking power of Craig on the feet. Like, Craig on the ground, if he ends up on top, he has good ground and pound, that's for sure. We saw that against Muniz. And like I said, and everybody knows, he's extremely dangerous in the jiu-jitsu department off his back. So, yeah, I mean, if you forced me to bet on it, I would bet on Craig ITD. But I'm not going to bet on anything here. I don't want to do it. I think Bellato's going to win. I'm not going to back him at minus 550. ITD is what? Bellato ITD, minus 300. KO's minus 160. Like, if anything, I'm sick in the head. Like, if anything, I would go Bellato decision. You guys know me. I'm not, like, thinking about it now. Okay, Craig can be knocked out, right? He can be knocked out. But his chin has held up before. And what if Bellato's knocking him down, following him to the ground, not finishing him, though? Craig's throwing up subs. Bellato just stays on top, stays safe. I mean, Bellato decision is live. I kind of want a better number than plus 475, but that might get some of my money. Maybe. That might be a donation I make this week. Possibly. Let's see what we got going on in the chat. Daz saying, hope Craig subs him. Lou saying over 1.5 for the... Lou knows me better than most people in this space. So Lou knows that I definitely considered the over 1.5, but I'd need a better number. I'd need a better number because there's so many ways this can end under. There's so many ways this can go over. This is a mess of a fight. That's why, if anything, if I was to bet into it, it would to be straight volatility, and I would do something like Bellato decision. 6-9 in the chat. That's so I can go. Yes, sir. It was a good weekend, but hopefully we can keep it going because one weekend doesn't mean much. Doesn't mean much. Could lose all that pretty quickly. Need to keep it going, keep it trending. We'll go Bellato. You know what? We're going to go Bellato decision because that's what we do here. Crazy things. All right, last fight of the night. We got the main event of the evening right now. We got 88 of you guys in the chat. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. It really, really helps. We're nearing 3,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. But the more you guys help, the better it is for the channel. If you like my content, if you ever follow my bets or follow what I say and you appreciate it, please just like, subscribe, comment. Helps a lot. And if you're on Twitter, you guys stink. You guys never do anything, but you're getting better at it, and I appreciate it. So please, if you're watching on Twitter, like, comment, retweet it. Especially a retweet, it takes you, what, a quarter of a second? Like, just retweet it. Just like it. It'll take you even less than a quarter of a second. Just like it. Do me a favor. All right. Main event of the evening, we got Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. Burns, 22-8-0, 38 years old. 5'10" with the 71-inch reach. Morales on the other side, 17-0, undefeated. He's only 25. He's 13 years younger. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 8-inch reach advantage. So I like Morales here. Surprise, surprise. He's minus what, 800 now, 900, which is just absolutely bananas. But like, it makes sense. It also doesn't make a ton of sense, but I'm also not dying to bet on Burns because I've always been really high on Morales. If you watch my stuff, I've never bet against him. I always bet on him or just don't bet on it. I've always picked him. I actually have a future on him for this year at plus 3,500. I think it was one of the ones I posted when this year started. I think that future is dead in the water. Welterweight is just way too stacked. Like, if Morales beats Burns, which I think he will, and even if he finishes him, that's not going to get him into the title picture when we have Rakhmonov in the wings. We have Ian Gary, who just beat Pratesh. We have Buckley and Usman happening in, a month from now, a month and a half. We have Sean Brady, who just recently won, and he's ranked, number 1 now? Technically, Bilal is still in the picture. He just lost his title. JDM at the champ now. This division is so stacked. It's crazy. I love it. And Morales is part of that stackedness, but I think that future is dead. But in terms of this fight, look, the line can't possibly be right unless Burns is just completely done and Morales knocks him out early. I tend to think that Burns is still pretty durable. I know he got knocked out by JDM. I know he did not look that great against Brady. But look, he was up. On the judges' scorecards, he was up 2-0 against JDM. He was 1 round against beating the guy who's now champion. And that wasn't all that long ago. That was a year and 2 months. And then he did get cooked by Brady, but Brady's been looking really good lately, just dominated Leon Edwards, another former champion. So it's like, yeah, Burns is losing, but it's literally to Bilal. So was champ, former champ. JDM, now the current champ, and Sean Brady, who just beat a former champion, Leon Edwards. So he just technically doesn't have any bad losses. He's the guy who we know can go 5 rounds. We haven't seen Morales go 5 yet. So you got to give that to Gilbert. And like, he's still an elite jiu-jitsu guy. We've seen Morales in a few spots that were not great on the ground throughout his career and in his UFC tenure. So there's ways for Burns to win this. And Burns is, if you're not knocking him out, he'll bring the brawl to you. If you're on the feet, he's going to bring that fight. He'll probably shoot takedowns, but Morales has really, really good takedown defense. And if Morales wanted to, he could probably bring the fight to the ground. But even Hamzat, like, you guys remember, Hamzat took him down, got like 1 sense of Burns off of his back and was just like, no, thank you. And just got back up and let him up. And it didn't really try after that. So I don't think Morales is going to try to grapple him. He's not Sean Brady. I think he's going to be smart. He knows that's not the best move for him. I think he's going to try to strike with Burns. The issue I have here is like, so he's minus 800, but if he doesn't knock out Burns, is he just going to be completely covering the price tag by winning all the minutes on the feet? Because Morales has fights where he's not separating all that much. And Burns, if you're not knocking him out, he's going to make it close. He's going to keep closing the distance. He's going to keep getting into boxing range and throw big shots. So I can see Burns making this competitive in a few different ways, through the grappling, through the cardio and the pace, through the striking, if he can put Morales on the back foot and not give him space. I think there's an argument to be made for Burns. I don't think I'm going to be on him. I don't, even though this price is nuts. I don't think I'll be there because I really rate Morales. To me, he's the real deal. He's similar to me to Natalia Silva, who just fought. I called her real early when she made his debut. I said I think she's going to be something. I think she'll be a future champ. I've been saying that about Morales, and I stand by it. So I think he's got the tools to get it done. I think he can possibly knock out Burns. He does hit really hard. He's very accurate. His counters are very nice. So I could see him getting the finish. But if he doesn't, this fight might play out close. So I just don't have a ton of interest at this line. And I don't really want to back Burns at this age. But who knows? It's on my list of retapes. Maybe I'll convince myself for a small Burns shot because plus 570 is just nuts. But I don't think so. I don't think I'll end up there. So that's where I'm at. And that's it, guys. That's UFC Vegas 106. I'll run through my picks one more time. I've only got one bet so far, and I've already told you what that is. That's going to be my free bet this week. Dustin Stolzfus money line. I like him a lot to get the job done. And then we're going to go Tecia Pennington as the pick. These are picks, not bets. Pennington, Park, Gomes, but this is a real dogger pass. Santos, but another major dogger pass. DelValle, Gordon, Camilo, but dogger pass. Costa, but dogger pass. Stolzfus, Santos, Bellato, Morales. And that's it, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.